My presentation will mainly focus on governance methods, so not so much on projects, but on how we do it and how we think you can work in an informal way on improving urban design quality in the city. So the Bouwmeester, the Bouwmeester Maître Architecte is not, in fact, like chief city architect. Just first to say what it is not. So I'm not the head of the planning administration. I'm also not managing or designing the public building projects of the city. I'm not responsible for deciding on the building permits. So that's why a Bouwmeester is not a chief city architect. That's already an important difference. It's rather close, but the nuance is important. I'm also not just one of many consultants working for the city, and I'm also not a politician. So what is the Bouwmeester? The Bouwmeester in general is a government-appointed official working in an independent position with a mission to improve the design quality of urban development projects. In the Brussels case, so what are we doing? The Bouwmeester Maître Architecte supervises the quality of city development projects in Brussels from an independent position. It's about supervising. Supervising sounds like controlling. In the office, we make often jokes so that we are like the police of architecture. So that's not a good way to do it. If you want to stimulate architectural or spatial quality, urban design quality, you have to intervene really ahead in the beginning of the project. That makes it more easy, more rewarding, and also more efficient. It's about city development as a whole, so not just buildings, but also public space, infrastructure, landscape, and so on. It's in Brussels. It means it's linked to the territory and not linked to the client. So that means it goes, in fact, for all possible clients in Brussels, public clients as well as private clients. So the Bouwmeester is independent. In the first sense, it means the Bouwmeester is neutral. So politically neutral. I'm working for the government and not for one of the members of the government, for one party. I'm not linked to one party. Also neutral in regard to the administration. So the Bouwmeester is, of course, working together with the administration, with all kinds of administrations of Brussels in this case, or Flanders in another case, but is not making part of it. It's a bit besides of it, next to it. So we are, for instance, working in a building of the planning administration, but we don't have a general director of the administration above us. So the Bouwmeester is directly accountable to the government. So as I said, the Bouwmeester is in and out of the system. In the system because appointed by the government, financed by the government, working with the administration, but also out of the system because not fully integrated and able to take independent positions. We are a team. So the Bouwmeester is a team of 15, 16 people now, also paid by the government. So these are city officials, civil servants integrated within the city administration. What are we doing in daily life or daily work? I think we have something like 4 tools. All 4 of them are soft power tools, in the sense that they have a lot of influence, or we hope they have a lot of influence in changing the city and putting aspects also on the agenda of the city, but they are never decisive. The main job, in fact, is organizing competitions. I think 50% of our time is spent in organizing competitions. We have a set of rules for competitions, so we want competitions to be organized in a proper way, in a correct way, with a clear program, with a clear question asked to the architects, with fair conditions also for the architects or the candidates who are participating. Always 2-stage competitions. Architects, so some architects or candidates are selected and they are paid for the 2nd stage. We are doing it we try to do it in a professional way with a good jury, transparent, with a good jury report afterwards. For instance, we publish not only the winning project on our website, but all finalists' projects. So also the losing projects, so that you can check and compare if we made the right choice. Competitions are very much important as a soft power tool in order to stimulate competition, emulation, to bring the best proposals on the forehand. What is quite special in Brussels, we also use it for projects of private developers. So in Brussels you have a lot of big private developers who are building a lot. If you want to have an impact on the change of the cityscape, you have to work with private developers. You have to improve quality also on that level, and not just on the side of the public projects. So that's why we collaborate them. They ask us to organize a competition, and that's again a fine equilibrium between being independent, compromising yourself sometimes a bit, forcing them to organize a competition, but you cannot force them legally. You can only convince them, use arguments, and that's the soft power element. Bouwmeesters are, people are doing what bouwmeesters are asking, not because the bouwmeesters are saying it, but because the argument of the bouwmeester makes sense. That's an important difference. That's a difference between power and authority. And that's, in these relationships with private developers, that's an important element. Sometimes, to be honest, it's also a bit of classical power play with private developers. Look, I will be here 5 years. We will meet each other frequently, so we have a choice. Or we try to collaborate and you change the way you're building, you improve your quality, or we will meet each other each time in discussions and I will be criticizing your projects all of the time. So sometimes it's also about this kind of nearly menacing and negotiating and dealing. The second pillar of our work is the quality chamber. In fact, that's quite classic. It exists in many cities. Important building permits or planning applications are discussed at the moment of the building permit on the level of quality. In Brussels, it is now compulsory since last year that projects above 5,000 square meters, they need to pass through a design quality review by the Bouwmeester, and in fact by the quality chamber that the Bouwmeester is organizing. So again, a kind of hybrid thing. It's power, because the government has decided that there should be a review, that it is obligatory, but it's soft, because the review itself is just advisory, isn't decisive. The building permit is not decided by the Bouwmeester. The Bouwmeester is just giving an advice on the quality. What is important for me also here is not so much that it is the Bouwmeester who develops an opinion on what is quality and so on, it's personal opinion, but that a Bouwmeester takes the responsibility that at a certain moment in the entire trajectory of a project, quality is discussed, that time is taken to discuss on quality and to do that in a correct way, in a decent way. So in a meeting room with a lot of people, with arguments, with transparency and so on. Not in a restaurant, not talking with the developer at a reception of the Lions Club or the Rotary Club, so that these things are being done in a professional way. We do this quite frequently now, so together with the other administrations, something like 5 sessions a month. The last thing is research by design. So I think on the side of a government, of a public authority, we should have the capacity to design ourselves, to make a drawing, to make an image, to produce an image, a rendering. Not so much because we want that the things are being built in the way that we draw, but to feed the discussion on quality. And to feed the discussion on quality with a tool that is our tool as architects and planners, that is a graphic thing, a map. So I hate it when we discuss on big planning or urbanistic projects in Brussels only with texts or with Excel tables on the square meters and the rentability. So we should develop this capacity within the public side to draw. And we use it, this research by design capacity, we use it to explore the possibilities of new sites, to visualize future potential of a site, but also in a reactive way, to draw alternatives, to propose alternatives for what, for instance, developers are proposing. On top of that, we do a lot of communication as well in the sense of promoting the fact that that architectural quality is important for a city, but also contributing, in fact, in the debates on what's happening in Brussels and what should be done in which way. So also taking position, formulating a point of view. This is Brussels. It's not so beautiful. So Brussels is not a cute city, not harmonious, but I think this is, in fact, perhaps this will become more representative for the European city than our mental idea about a European city, which is clear and very much defined as a kind of point in a landscape. So Brussels is not like that. And that's why I think in these kind of cities, also, so not just, let's say, the morphological cityscape, but of course also the ethnic composition, the social diversity in our cities is becoming more and more complex. In Brussels, somebody like me is really a minority. So both my parents were born in Belgium. And that's in Brussels, that's the minority. Only 30% of the people have a Belgian origin in Brussels. So today, Brussels is, in fact, there is no Leitkultur, there is no dominating culture. Brussels is becoming more and more diverse in its social composition, and that's why this kind of cityscape is, in fact, quite well reflecting it. It's a phenomenon that will come in all other kinds of cities, and that's why I think that also our model of governance should become much more multidimensional. So making the city is not anymore something that is decided by the government, by the state, by the city, by the mayor. It's also not anymore the genius of the architect. It's not Le Corbusier. Luckily we don't have Le Corbusier anymore. It's also not just bottom-up. Cities will not be built just by bottom-up initiatives. So it's a more complex constellation of many, many actors in which you have to move and in which you have to make connections and where there are much more relations than just hard power relations. So that's why I think this mechanism that we are looking for in Europe about soft power mechanisms that are also interrelating sometimes, the level of the public authority and the level of civil society. That's why I think they are not only interesting and making the difference in many cities, but are also very much responding to our age, to our era in which things become more complex, and we should embrace this kind of complexity instead of trying to get away from it. Thank you.